Welcome to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk.
Hey everyone, it's Jenny Lisk, and this is episode 29 of the Widowed Parent Podcast. I have a very special guest in the podcast studio with me today, my daughter, Megan Lisk. Megan is 12, and her dad, my husband, died when she was 9. And for what it's worth, it was Megan's idea to be my guest on the podcast this week. I was lamenting the fact that various circumstances had left me with no episode ready to go this week, and she said, "You can interview me." So I figured, why not? It was great for me, personally, to be able to have this sort of in-depth discussion with her, the kind that we don't normally have in the day-to-day busyness of normal life. And it also reminded me of my discussion with StoryCorps and the New York Life Foundation last time about their Road to Resilience project and the space that it opens up for parents and kids to talk about their loss and their loved ones. I hope that our discussion today might inspire you to sit down with your own kids and talk about your experiences and their experiences too. You can even record your conversation in the StoryCorps app if you'd like. You can listen to episode 28 for more details on that. And I hope that hearing firsthand from a 12-year-old who lost her dad might be of some use to you as well. I hope you enjoy my discussion with my daughter, Megan Lisk. My guest today is Megan Lisk, who is my daughter, and she's joining me here in the podcast studio at our home in Seattle, Washington. Megan, welcome.
Hello.
So I'm really glad to be talking with you today about this. Thank you for doing this.
Yes, you're welcome.
So first of all, can you just tell listeners, how old are you and what grade will you be next year in school?
Well, currently I'm 12 and next year I'm going to be going into 7th grade.
Okay, thank you. And so just, can you start us off by telling everybody, before Dad died, what was life like? Like, what was just kind of normal life before everything changed?
Well, basically life was just like an average nuclear family. That's what
Mm-hmm.
An average nuclear family. We would just go on walks and talk and have nice family dinners. We still do that, of course.
Dad liked to cook a lot, didn't he?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I got into cooking, which I like now.
Ah, yes, and I should say you are an excellent cook, and you made some really delicious looking eggs today with herbs from the garden and the whole deal.
He taught me how to cook, especially eggs, and it's very fun, and one day I hope to be better than you.
I'm sure you will be, and probably very soon, if not already. Okay, so then can you tell us, so what happened? So everything was fine, life was normal, you were 8, right? And then what happened?
Well, then basically what happened is he was diagnosed with brain cancer. I remembered the day in school when they were going to go say goodbye, and it was the surgery day. So usually it was my father who drove us, my brother and I, to school, but this time it was the whole family, including you, driving, and this is when he was going to go get the surgery to try to remove the tumor and all that.
The very first surgery.
Yeah, so I remember parking in the school parking lot and getting out and, just saying goodbye to him. But, at that moment, I didn't realize how, things were just going to change right after that moment.
It seemed like just a normal, hop out of the car and say goodbye and run off kind of a morning, and you didn't realize that.
Yeah, I thought, the surgery was going to be, if you had, a leg surgery or something like that. You just, have a couple days of healing and then just be back to normal.
Right. That was hard for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thinking about that later, that was really the last time that you saw him kind of normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. What was it like for you when he was sick?
Well, it kind of just, forced me to grow up faster and, become more mature because, now, for you, it was more you had to take care of 3 people in the family instead of just Peter and me.
Dad needed a lot of care during that time.
Yeah, at some points he needed even more than us. So.
I remember you and Peter playing games with him, and I remember you helping him play Sorry and things, and kind of coaching him through it. That was something that I think I'll always remember, and how you were so mature about it. But it must have been hard.
It was pretty hard just seeing, like, your father being, like, less capable than you are.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he was sick for about 8 months. Mm-hmm. And at the end, he was on hospice here at home.
Yeah.
And then he died. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that day? Maybe that was a dumb question. What do you remember about that day?
January 8th, 2016. That's the day he died. It was about, like, 2 p.m., right?
I think it was around 2:30. Yeah.
Yeah, 2, yeah. But yeah, basically, the night before, I think he, like, started to get into a coma, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, his parents came over, and I think yours might have, or at least Grandma. And, like, we just all slept downstairs with him where the hospital bed was. Mm-hmm. And when we woke up, he was still in a coma, and it was really sad. But we begged you to, like, let my brother and I stay home. Mm-hmm.
It was a school day.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was a Friday.
It was a Friday, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Friday, and so we got to stay home because of the state that he was in, so we wanted to spend a little more time with him. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I was upstairs getting some lunch, cutting some apples and all that. Mm. It was just, I was cutting apples and putting food dye on them.
Food dye?
Yes, I was making little books out of apples.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, but then I just remember hearing somebody, I think it was Christy or either Grandma, and they yelled, like, everybody get downstairs, he's dying or something. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then when I ran downstairs, I think it was, like, he was dead, because, like, he was in the coma, and I saw his eyes open, so I'm like, is he okay? But then after, like, I realized that was him dying and all his muscles, like, mm-hmm. letting go and all mm-hmm. that. Mm-hmm. So that was sad, and yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we had the funeral about a week later, and you spoke at the funeral. Mm-hmm. Was that important to you?
That was important to me. It meant something to me. But yeah, I kind of wish that I had spoken a little bit more, because, like, I don't know, I feel like there's so much more stuff that I could have said, and, like, more great things about him that he could be memorized for. But I'm still proud that I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. You did a wonderful job, by the way.
I was talking about eggs and how he taught me how to cook.
Yeah. Yeah. You gave the welcome remarks, and mm-hmm. that was really, I think, a nice way to start off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you had a chance to do that. So, so what do you remember about, like, the first few weeks, months, the first year? Like, how was that first period for you?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, or in school, I'm not always, like, the really emotional person or something like that. Just for my opinion, I like to stay strong and just be there for my friends. So I don't always, so I've almost never cried in school or anything, except for in, like, kindergarten, but that's besides the point. So yeah, so I didn't really show that much emotion. I would, like, sometimes, or one time when, like, I first got back to school, they brought both of the classroom grades into the classroom and read a book that was, like, The Invisible String and how it connects us even with, like, the dead, or mm-hmm. even with our, like, loved ones who are dead. Mm-hmm. And so it was directed at me, and then they gave me the book after, and they're like, we're sorry, and all that stuff. Mm. So that was hard, and I needed to hold back some tears, but I don't know, I've mostly stayed strong about it, and I just want to help other people. But what bothered me the most was how, like, my friends were awkward about it, which is fine, and they probably were, because we were, like, the first family in our grade to have a parent die. Mm-hmm. So they weren't exactly used to it, and they almost never brought up their dads around me or anything, but, like, I don't care about that. That's your father. You should be able to talk about them. You should be able to talk about memories. I'm not holding you back, and it makes me happy to hear that you're happy. But I guess they just didn't understand and thought that it would hurt my feelings. But I don't know. And they were awkward for like a long time, whereas I've basically just accepted the fact that my father's dead. And I kind of don't like it when people are awkward around me because that just reminds me even more.
I think it's hard for kids. It's hard for adults. It's hard for everybody, I think, to know sometimes what to say or how, what not to say or how to react. I can see how that would be tricky.
Yeah.
What do you remember most? Like, what's your happiest memory or thought about him?
Well, one of the funny moments was when I was really young, and it was like 11 o'clock, which was late for me back then.
11 p.m.?
Yeah, p.m.
Okay.
That was late for me back then. But so I remember I was reading Chicken Little or whatever it's called, like The Sky is Falling.
Oh, yeah.
And I kept on coming down like every 5 minutes asking what word or how to pronounce this word or something like that. And I remember you two were doing the dishes, and I remember like you would be helping me and you're like, okay, that word is they. And I'm like, okay. So then I would go back up to my bed and keep reading, but then I would stumble upon another word. So I would keep on doing that, and then my dad was like, Megan, you need to get some sleep. It's a school night. And I'm like, okay. What word is that? I don't know. It's just really funny to think back on those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. So here's a question for you. I'm wondering, like, what do you think you've learned by having to face grief at such a young age? You were 9 when he died, and now you're 12. What do you think you've learned by? Most people don't have a parent die until they're hopefully much, 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 much older.
Well, I feel like I've learned to, like, mature more, and I feel like I've learned how to be there for people who are going through hard times. I mean, obviously, they're probably not going through the same thing as me, but they're probably grieving, so I can, like, help them with it.
Because you've had another friend since then from your same class. Well, actually, 2 classmates, one who's a friend of yours, whose parents have also died since then.
Parent.
Each of them had one parent
die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been hard on them, and I think it's also been hard for our whole class, because in, like, the last, like, or in the span of 3 years, 3 parents have died just in that grade.
Yeah.
And 2 of them being in, like, in a very short amount of time.
Right.
So it might be hard for the kids to understand what's happening and all that. But also I feel so bad for the kids because they probably thought, oh, that would never happen to my parent, but then it just did.
Yeah.
Because that's what I expected.
It's a lot of losing parents for one class of kids to go through. Okay, so what do you think has been the hardest for you so far in your experience?
Well, I think the hardest was just getting back socially because, like, all the people were like, oh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna talk to her? What happens if we make her sad or something like that? So I just kind of felt isolated in a time that I needed my friends the most. But yeah, but like now after 3 years, we can just like talk and laugh, about things and just like, I don't know, we've kind of just dismissed the fact and they've treated me like a normal person, which I like.
So what do you like to do on, those special days, like the anniversary of Dad's death or his birthday or Father's Day? Like, how are those days for you? What do you like to do or not do?
Well, this year, like last January this year, my mother and I, you and I, went to, the places that he liked. I took off the day at school and we just did some things that he liked. Like, we listened to some music, I think.
Didn't we watch Gilligan's Island?
Yes, he liked Gilligan's Island, so we watched it, and very good show, I might add in. But yeah, so we watched that. We went to the dog park with our dogs. And we just walked around. And then at the end of the day, my brother could have gone, but he didn't want to. And since he's in high school, it'd be a little bit harder for him to miss classes. So at the end of the day, we went to his favorite restaurant, which is Red Robin, and we just ate there. And we just, basically on those special days, we just do stuff that he likes. And like on Father's Day this last weekend, we baked a pie, you and Peter baked a pie, and I ate it. I wasn't really in the mood for it, but that doesn't matter.
Do you remember what kind of pie it was?
Rhubarb.
Why?
Because Dad liked rhubarb.
Yes, and I had to go all over town to find rhubarb because I think they were all sold out, but I found some and it was delicious.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so here's another question. What have I done that's been helpful to you in the last few years?
Well, I think just you being there and all has been really helpful for me. And, like, you've, like, kind of stepped up to be both roles of a parents, like, of a mother and father or two guardians or whatever. So I think that's been really helpful. And also, I think it was helpful that, like, you set me up with, like, therapy and all that stuff. Like, while he was sick, you set us up with safe crossings.
Grief counselor.
With a grief counselor. And then, just, like, over the years, I've had a couple different counselors, which have been helpful. And now I think I'm getting much better. So, yeah, I think that was really helpful for me to get.
Okay. And is there anything that you think that I should do differently?
I don't really think so. I think what you've done has been helpful, and I think that you've just done everything you can possibly do, and I think that's helped me a lot.
Well, thank you. So, if you could say one thing to your 9-year-old self, what would you say to 9-year-old Megan?
Well, I'd probably say, like, what do you mean? Like, while he was sick or, like, before he was sick?
Either one. If you could give yourself some advice, either for the time when he was sick or the time, like, right after he died.
Well, for what I would tell, my 8-year-old self before, or, like, the day before he were to get surgery, I would, like, tell myself, like, this will be one of the last times, or the last time that you'll see him as, like, the normal, capable person he is. So, like, say a heartwarming goodbye, and not just, like, bye, I love you, but just say, like, say how much you love him, and just thank him for being there all those years.
Yeah.
And then for myself in, like, while he was sick, I'd probably tell, like, them, like, hey, like, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna get through this, look at me now, I'm amazing, no. But I'd probably be like, hey, it's gonna be fine, you're gonna get through this, you're gonna help change the world one day, and you're gonna become somebody special.
Yay. So what do you wish Dad knew about who you are today?
Well, I hope he knew what I'm doing right now, or I hope he knows that I'm trying to raise money for brain cancer research, and I hope that he just knows the person that I've come out to be.
So let's switch gears then and talk a little bit about, you said brain cancer research.
Yep.
So let's talk about Megan's Cards for Cancer. So what is that?
Well, you already know this.
I know.
For our listeners out there.
Exactly.
Well, basically, Megan's Cards for Cancer is just something that we've made where I am the artist of this company, business, small business. It's just me and you, but that's besides the point. We're good people. So basically, we have, like, I make card designs, and just designs to put on cards, and then you turn them into cards with, like, Vistaprint, and then we sell them, and we give all the proceeds to, Dr. Cobbs at the Swedish Foundation.
And who is Dr. Cobbs?
Well, he's the surgeon and researcher who operated on my dad the first couple of times. Mm-hmm. And he was a really good doctor. He's a really nice person. He's really smart. And he's not like those stereotypical doctors, researchers who, like, look down on you and be like, oh, you don't know anything or whatever. He's really social and really helpful. And, like, he actually is so grateful for all the times that we donate to him. And he, like, takes in it. He realizes it and he thanks us greatly. And some of the research that he's doing is actually really cool. And he's, like, using new types of machinery to help. Mm-hmm. So he took us on a tour of his lab and showed us some of the equipment and talked about some of the breakthroughs they're finding with a virus maybe causing glioblastoma and working on some potential vaccines. Yep. So, so how did Megan's Cards for Cancer get started? Well, was it the same year that he died?
Yeah, it was that first Christmas.
Yeah, so it was like a little less than a year after he had died. I was just like, I want to do something to, like, help brain cancer research or whatever. And so I was just like, well, then you asked me, do you want to be, like, a researcher or, like, a doctor or something like that? And I'm like, no, I'd get bored easily and I don't like seeing blood. So then you were like, okay, well, let's look on the other side of the spectrum. Do you want to, like, donate money or just help research?
Actually, you might not remember. You came up with that yourself. You said very clearly, no, I don't want to be a doctor or nurse. I want to use my art skills to raise money for the research that other people are doing. Remember that?
No.
Yeah, you did.
Oh. Well, okay, no, I'm just kidding. But so then, you were like, well, so my old school had, like, this Christmas fair. Mm-hmm. So you could, like, set up booths there. And you were like, hey, let's, like, set up a booth or something like that. What would you want to make? Do you want to make, like, cards to sell? And I was like, yeah. So just, like, right then, I think I ran up to my room and whipped out a couple of card designs.
A whole bunch of card designs. Mm-hmm. Christmas cards the first time, right?
Yeah, and then it took us and then we sold a bunch, and we had, like, a lot of it. We got $500, and we gave that to him, like, the third Friday.
Well, do you remember that we made $500 and you were so excited and you said, okay, great, now I want to take it over to Dr. Cobbs. Uh-huh. And I thought, okay, now I need to figure out how we're going to do that because he's a busy guy, right? He's got patients and he's got surgeries and he's got a lot of important responsibilities.
But then was it that year that we went on the tour?
So I just happened to find out that he was going to be giving a tour of his lab the Friday before Christmas, and the timing was perfect because we had just, raised this money, and so I contacted them and I said, could we come over and, do the tour of the lab, and by the way, can we give him a donation while we're there? And they said that would be great. So we went over there.
And we went on the tour, and... Well, you forgot the check.
I was just going to ask if you remembered that.
You forgot
No, it was cash, remember? You
oh, yeah, you forgot the card.
You had written a nice card for him about how he should use the money for research, and you wanted to put cash in there so it would seem more exciting. And I left it right by the front door. And we got over there, and we got in the parking garage, and because I picked you guys up from school, and we went straight there, and you said, do you have the card? And I said, oh my gosh. So then I think I called Grandpa.
And Grandpa was our savior.
Yes, can you run over to our house? I think it's right by the front door. And he did, and he got it, and he came over.
And we were saved.
Yep. And do you remember, though, that first time meeting Dr. Cobbs? Well, I guess you had met him before, but that was the first time that we really got to spend some time visiting with him.
And, like, we talked to him and all that. And then I gave him the money, and he was so surprised at how much we had raised.
I think he was, because, when you contact, the foundation and you say, my kid raised some money selling some Christmas cards, can we bring it over? And I didn't say how much. I think he probably thought it was going to be $50 or something,
But we doubled that multiple times. Yeah. So, I don't know, it was, really nice to see him be happy and, just how grateful he was, so that made me happy. So, yeah, it was just cool. And then it took us, another couple of months to, set up a website to, sell other card designs that are, all year round. And I remember, we had, gone to this thing at a restaurant with two other people from Swedish, and, they, were talking about, all the cards and all that stuff.
Well, do you remember they reached out and invited you and me to go to lunch with them to thank you for what you had done?
Mm-hmm. So I left for lunch at school, and then I came over there to the restaurant and we ate, and when I came back, my teacher's like, oh, do you want to tell your friends what happened about it? So I was like, okay, so I basically, sat up in class and just told them, and I remember, after, they would, that day or the next couple days, they would, come up to me and be like, hey, you should make, this card design, or you should make a thank you card, or something like that.
Cool.
So that was nice.
And then, so that was early in 2017, and the Brain Cancer Walk was coming up in May of that year. And we had a table at the Brain Cancer Walk.
Uh-huh.
With your cards. That was exciting. And then, what was it like for you? So I remember as part of the getting ready for that Brain Cancer Walk, the Swedish Foundation people had arranged some newspaper interviews for us to try to get some publicity for the walk and talk about the art you were doing in your cards. And then that summer, what did they do?
No idea.
Do you remember the video that we did for Swedish?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
What was it like for you to be interviewed about Dad and about your art and about the project?
I feel like it wasn't exactly needed because what I was doing was just, finding a cause that I wanted and just finding a way to help and raise money or something like that. So, I don't know. I just think that, all people should, find something that's important to them and, just, do something to help out with the cause or something like that.
Do you think that having something tangible like this to work on to, specifically for brain cancer, for what we lost Dad to, do you think that's been helpful for you in your grief?
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important. And, I don't know. I don't like getting attention for it, which is weird because I like getting lots of attention, especially at school. But, I didn't just do it just to, get popular and be like, oh yeah, I'm so good and blah, blah, blah. I wanted to do it to, help out. I don't know. I switched schools this last year. And so, I didn't tell my friends about anything, or my new friends about anything. I mean, I told them that my father had died to, kick out any awkwardness of them asking, ask your mom or dad if we could, hang out or something. But, so I told them that, but I didn't really tell them anything else. And then when King 5 had this, 12 for 12, interview thing with us, I never told any of my friends because, I don't know, it's just something I don't want to get popular on because I just want it to be something that, I can just help out and, they don't realize it or anything. But I remember, one of my friends coming up to me a couple days after it had released because they had watched the news and they had seen me and they're like, that's so cool. And I'm like, thank you. That's nice. Yay. I don't know. It was kind of awkward because I thought that they wouldn't really see it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was nice, and I was just like, that's cool. I wasn't like, hey everybody, I am on TV! Losers! No, I wasn't like that. I would be doing that if I had done something else, like if I won $1 million. No, I'm just kidding. But like, I don't know, that's not something I want to like talk about as much, especially because like, it's not a subject I want like everybody to talk about and all that.
Okay. So what do you think about for the future, like as far as, you know, are you interested in continuing to support brain cancer research, or at times you've mentioned the idea of maybe talking to, I'm not sure who, but about like grief and stuff. What do you think about any of that?
Well, I think I'll always, for the rest of my life, be wanting to like help raise awareness or raise money for brain cancer research. So I think that'll always be in my life. And also, with the Megan's Cards for Cancer, that's been going on for a couple years, but I don't know if I want to keep continuing it. I still want to do something, but like now my school's gotten more difficult and I don't make a lot of new designs anymore. So I might want to like do something else to help, like still be involved with all of this, but maybe like find a new way to help. And I also want to like stretch out on ideas and maybe like do something else that I want to work on. And also I don't want, I don't know, I feel like it was easier in grade school because I basically had no homework.
Right. Things are getting harder, and as you move on through middle school and high school,
More
it's only
stressful.
More on your plate.
Yeah. But so basically, I've like in the last week or something like that, I've wanted to become a public speaker now. Well, I've always had that in the back of my mind because like Naomi Wadler.
Oh, Naomi Wadler?
Yeah. She was speaking in front of like basically the whole world, and she was like talking about something important. So that really motivated me, especially because like she's younger than me.
I think she's about your same age.
Yeah.
And she spoke on the National Mall in front of, like you said, the whole world, the TV and...
So, I mean, if she could do that, if like a little kid could get noticed, then I might be able to too one day.
Absolutely.
So I just want to like speak out against things like important to me, especially like this. And also, like I was saying, especially in this last week, I've wanted to maybe start public speaking because, well, my school was based off of group projects and lots of presentations, and those were always made me anxious and all that stuff. But in this last week of school, we have had 4 big presentations that I presented all on the same day.
That was a lot.
Yeah, it was, but it was actually more fun than I thought. There was, like, barely any anxiety to it. I was just able to do it, like, bam, 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 bam. And then the final one was in our advisory class, and it was basically a reflection of the whole year, and we could be as creative as we wanted. So for my presentation, I made comics, and I walked around the room explaining them to, like, not just sitting up at the classroom and being like, oh yeah, so, here, school was good. I wanted to, like, walk around and just show my powers, and show, like, my talents off, in a modest way. Yeah. Modest, yeah. So I was, like, walking around the classroom, and, like, right when I got up and I got all the attention of, like, no kids talking anymore or anything like that, I was just, like, I just started talking, and it just, like, felt, like, easy to me, and I don't know, and I loved it when, like, the whole class, like, clapped after, I don't know, and it was just so nice to see that, like, I was appreciated for a time, and, like, there's such a...
Well, I remember you were excited about the comics you had put together with the message you were delivering and the creativity that went into your presentation.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, like, made me really happy for, like, the next day or two.
Yeah.
And we got, like, feedback from our classes, and when, like, the teacher was like, do you guys have any feedback for Megan? It made me feel really happy when, like, nobody raised their hand. So I'm like... Yay! So I really liked that, and I don't know, it felt like improv.
That would be fun to take an improv class sometime.
Well, it's because I hadn't even practiced at all. I hadn't even practiced talking or anything. I just kind of like... Boom!
Off the cuff.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And I don't know. I felt like I sent a special message to them saying like how thankful I was. And also, I'm switching schools next year again. Because, I don't know, this year was stressful for me. So that was when I basically told, I had told my close friends that I was leaving, but not all of them. So that's basically when I was like, or there was adjectives that we needed to use. So one of mine was brief. So at the very end, I was like, or I had shared the adjectives before, except for the last one. So I'm like, and you might be thinking, there are only 5 adjectives. Where's the 6th one? And that one is brief. And then, like, I pulled out, like, a piece of art that had brief on it. And I'm like, brief. And then I, like, used all the adjectives to be like, my school year was amazing, hard, stressful, exciting, new, and brief. Because it was only in this small couple of months that I've gotten to meet all of you and learn all these new experiences. And it's also going to be my last month because I'm leaving school. And then, I don't know, it felt really good for people to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss you. And I don't know, I just felt like I was in a loving place with great friends. But just, I've left it because of some of the hard things that's happening in it. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I want to ask you about your art a little bit more, because you were talking about, doing some of your art through Megan's cards for cancer, and then how maybe as you get older and busier, that might fall off a little bit, but you still continue to enjoy doing art for yourself, right?
Yes.
What kind of art do you like to do?
Well, I like to do comics, like little comic things, but I don't know, I like expressing, like, art and comedy. So yeah. But comics in like a cartoon way. And also I've drawn in anime. But yeah, just like realistic but not. I don't know. Then also I like to use watercolor sometimes, and
watercolor paint, right?
Yeah, and that's when I use that's when I draw more realistic.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's a good tone to use with it. So I do that. And I don't know, it's just really fun to I've done lots of types of arts and lots of mediums.
Acrylic you've done.
Yeah, acrylic, marker, sketching, and blah, 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 blah. And I like picking up on them and just doing all sorts of things to, like, raise my level of art and just become good at, like, not just one thing, but try to become good at all of them.
How do you find that you learn? Like, where do you get tips and techniques from?
Well, this year my art teacher was probably, I know I've only had, like, a couple art teachers throughout my years, but she was definitely the best by far that I've had. But the other ones were really good too, but I don't know. She was like, I think it's also because it was middle school and we got to see her every single day. Oh, yeah. Whereas last time we only got to see the art teacher for like
once a week.
Once a week. So we would only get through like a couple projects through a year. But in her class, we got through like a lot of them.
And you're older, so she's probably introducing
like harder things.
Higher level projects,
And this year is one of the years that I've been able to, like, excel at, more or less. Excel. And so I, like, I don't know, she's challenging me and just, like, helping me. And she was really helpful, and I hope that all art teachers are gonna be like this. But the sad thing is they're probably not. But I don't know. I'll remember her as a person who helped with my art for a long time, and she's really good at art. And I remember on the last day of school, which was like a week ago, but she said to me that like, I hope you get far in life, and like one day, Then I said, I hope I can be as good as artist as you. And then she's like, I bet you will, and you might even be right now. So, because I've seen her as, like, an idol or somebody that I look up to, it just really made me feel happy about it.
Yeah.
So, one day I will be better than her. But yeah, I don't know, she really inspired me, and I don't know, she's, like, good at everything she does.
Yeah. Okay, well, actually, we're running out of time today. This has been such a great discussion. I have just one more question for you, if that's all right.
Okay.
If you could say one thing to the widowed parents who, are listeners, or anybody who might be a widowed parent out there, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd probably say that, like, for you, if you have kids or anything, like, ask them questions about it. Talk to them. Like, don't just, like, leave them grief and mourn on their own. Like, for me, it really helped me to get therapy. So that might help for them, or it might not. I don't really know. But just, like, especially if they're really down, you might want to ask questions and ask if they, like, want to go through some therapy or something like that. Because as much as I didn't exactly like therapy or anything, it just still really helped me just grow as a person and help me, like, get over things. So I think, like, a lot of that's helpful. And also, like, turn grief into action. Like, get causes that are important to you, or maybe one of the reasons that your loved one had died, and maybe, like, start a business, start something, start a charity, a business, raise money, talk, public speaking.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you very much for talking with me today. I think that's a great place to end. So we'll just finish up here by saying my guest today is Megan Lisk, and Megan is my daughter, and she's 12, and she lost her dad when she was just 9, and I really appreciate you speaking with me today, Megan. We don't always get to talk about this and reflect, so I'm very glad that you were interested in sharing with me and sharing with all of my listeners. So let me just ask Megan, where can listeners find Megan's Cards for Cancer if they're interested in seeing some of your artwork?
Just search up meganscardsforcancer.com, no spaces, lowercase letters.
How do you spell Megan?
Meghin.
No. How do you spell Megan? Oh no, we had a beep on the thing. Oops. Okay.
Megan. Megan.
Okay, meganscardsforcancer.com. Okay. Well, fantastic. Megan, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
You're welcome. High five.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with my daughter, Megan Lisk, as much as I did. You can find show notes and all the links at widowedparentpodcast.com. Look for episode 29. And hey, last week I was at the National Alliance for Grieving Children Symposium high in the mountains of Utah. We were up above 8,000 feet with an excursion to 11,000 feet, so I was awfully glad to get back to my hometown, which is elevation 43 feet above sea level. I met so many interesting people doing interesting and really important work related to childhood grief. I can't wait to bring you my discussions with many of them on upcoming episodes. I was also able to finally meet in person a great many of the folks who've been guests on the podcast already. I'll definitely be going back again next year so I can learn even more and bring it all directly to you. I do have a quick favor to ask. If you've listened to an episode or two, could you please go into iTunes and rate and review the podcast? Ratings and reviews are a huge factor in making the podcast more visible, and the more visible it is, the more widowed parents will be able to find it. It only takes a moment, and I really do appreciate it. You can find the link to leave a rating and review at jennylisk.com/apple. And brief comments are totally fine. So many listeners have made positive comments on social media, and it really would be great and really helpful to get some more of that feedback into iTunes. Thanks for listening. Until next week, keep smiling.
Thank you for listening to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk. Connect with us on social media and at widowedparentpodcast.com.